forward, let's kind of shift gears to that Purdue game. Obviously, I think a lot of people, myself included, thought it would be a blowout, and that didn't really happen. I think there was a couple spots where it could have been blown wide open, and to Michigan State's credit, they hit some timely threes. I think that as I did rewatch it again. I think the pace of the game, I think they did a decent job in the second half of dictating pace. And those aren't the kind of things that most teams do against Purdue. And obviously it didn't affect, Purdue in that they were able to stay within their offense and, play sound defense. It's just, I think there were a couple big plays by Michigan State in the second half that kind of kept it closer than it really was. But to their credit, they did, the pace of the game is it's what you want it to be. And if that's what your game plan is, if you're a team that gets up and down and, you're able to dictate that, good for you. But if you're not a team that gets up and down, but you think that your best shot is to limit possessions, then, and you aspire to do that in any given game, then, that's a win. I think that the looking forward, after this game, I think that it was probably Purdue getting that conference championship. I think they're all but assured sole possession of it. But I think that getting that out of the way and done, I think that, I think that some people look at the confetti dropping and all the extra stuff after the game. I heard rumblings of that on social media, like they're celebrating too soon. They could have had a parade after the game. It wouldn't have mattered. This team is focused on their goals, and I think everybody knows what their goals are. So I don't take much from that. I think that it's actually a positive that they got the win, got this out of the way, and it kind of fell where it was. And it's just one less thing that they're going to be pressing towards. They can just work on their habits and preparing for the run that matters. Those are my main takeaways. Like I said, I fully expected, a blowout. I think the line was 10.5. Yeah. I thought they'd cover that easily. They didn't, but I don't think at any point the game was in doubt at all, at any point. So what were your thoughts on the game itself on Saturday night?
Well, I thought they would cover the spread. I thought the game would go. I thought the game would actually say as much about Michigan State as it does about Purdue. I thought I watch. I like to watch, especially when Purdue has a big game, whether it be football, basketball.
Yeah,
I like to go and watch the other teams coach some of their players, press conference comments or post practice comments, if it's like players, or like what they think of. Like, it's sort of like when you see a coach and they've kind of got that smirk about like, well, you might throw a little this or whatever. Like, there's that quiet confidence, and like, but if you listen to the players, they'll suppress it to a degree, and they won't really give away the game plan because obviously they're told not to do that.
Yeah.
Like, they'll be like, well, we're going to throw a lot of bodies at Edie. And like, there's some gamesmanship there, but it's sort of like, I always like to watch those because it gives you a sort of a perspective of like what their mentality is. Which obviously you're going to get some coach speak, some player speak. You're not typically going to get like bulletin board stuff.
Yeah.
But you do get like if a player like looks nervous about answering the question rather than something like when you like if I ask you something that like you're very confident in, you'll just rattle off the answer. You won't think about it. But if you're worried about how to articulate that answer, you may really suppress or might take you a minute to come up with that answer. It won't be like, So like what you really think ingrained is really how you feel. So if you answer something very confidently, you feel very good about that. And so like you can sometimes read between the tea leaves if any of that makes sense. I think it makes sense to you. I mean, I could kind of give you some examples of it particularly, but so I like to like sort of do that, especially when it's like for a bigger opponent, especially one that has a little bit more access. Like you can go find it a little bit easier if it's a bigger team because there's more people covering them. But you can pretty much do that now with the internet. Find something on somewhere. You even watch podcasts of people, and then they'll have some inside information that like you might not be privy to, but like you have to be able to disseminate that information. So either way, but I felt like Tom Izzo felt like the team was in a good headspace and was like very disappointed how they played, and that it was going to be a very motivating I felt like we were going to see a highly motivated Michigan State team. I think the thing about it is like they have not played well at Mack Arena for a number of years now, and now it's going on over a decade since they've won there. And so their fans, Izzo looks at it as a house of horrors. Their fans kind of look at like a house of horrors. And the thing about it is, I think now you've almost got a role reversal over the last few years with Purdue, where it's like Purdue is kind of like the flagship program of the Big Ten. Now, we don't have the Final Fours and all this, and that Izzo and Michigan State has been successful in March. But if you're talking about, there's no Big Ten coach that's even after a few years that isn't like winning against Purdue or winning at Mackey, let's say specifically, but beating Purdue is like that's an accomplishment in the Big Ten. That's an accomplishment for anybody. Like anyone that coaches or really understands basketball, they're like those are the kind of wins it's like you can build your program like up with. Like those are, hence all the court stormings we've had. And obviously we've been ranked 1, on those things, which is a testament to like how good, Purdue's been. But just, within the Michigan State game specifically, we like it sort of like was a bigger game for Michigan State than it was for Purdue because they've lost 2 games in a row at home. And it's crazy. Like if they win that game before they play Purdue, we probably do blow them out. But now you got this team on edge that's, if they lose, that's 3 in a row. And we get to the scenarios where I talked about where like, now you get Northwestern, who's not 100% Northwestern. But you get Northwestern, you get them at home, and it is your senior day. But Northwestern doesn't do stuff that they have very low turnovers. So you have to out-rebound them to really gain possessions. And they can shoot. So if they hit 10, 12 threes on you, they're going to be in the game. Because even if you got rebounded by 10 or 15, probably going to be in the game. And so the way they play, like, and then all of a sudden, and I said this now, said it before our last pod, Indiana's been playing better. Now they've won 2 in a row. Now they're not, mind you, they're not great. But playing them on senior day, on the last day of the season, that doesn't help them get in the NCAA tournament, but it does springboard momentum either for next year or going into the Big Ten tournament or some flicker of hope. Like running Michigan State season, that's motivation for a lot of teams. Like running team season that are NCAA tournament teams, that can be motivation in itself. And Maryland hadn't lost a whole lot of games at home, and they Indiana went there and ended up winning the game. And if I'd have told you that like literally 3 games ago, you'd have said, well, I've got a drug problem. So, and so it's just like they're, as Indiana great? By no means no. But now they're, some of that tough love's kicking in, and so like this is a big game for them against Northwestern. And I know part of your process with that was like that you thought they're going to get their ass kicked against Purdue.
Yeah. So to me, I thought, I mean, it's a bigger leap for me as an athlete to overcome just getting your ass kicked. I mean, you got to be motivated after that and show that that's not who you are.
Yeah.
But I guess I never really calculated a close game.
Yeah.
And and looking on the bright side, coming off a close game, which I know that Izzo said in his press conference, he views them as the best team in the nation. He flat out said that. I mean, I think
That's a great press conference, by the way. If you
and I think that you're gonna listen to your coach on some level. Every player on some level is going to listen to what the coach says. And, if they read between the lines and they say, we did this well, we could have done this better. And that was against what we believe is the best team in the nation. I think that just, I didn't have that calculus as far as a closer game, a 6-point game, hitting timely shots. Like I said, realistically though, I don't think the game was ever in doubt. It just wasn't. But I think that you kind of take that shot as Michigan State, and you kind of see where you fall, and you're not. You get to go back home, and you're not going to see another environment like that again. I don't know. I see them. I see Michigan State a little differently as far as their pieces. Booker being an Indianapolis product, I don't know. He's like a poor man's Kevin Garnett to me. Just watching his ability in high school.
He was heavily recruited by Matt Painter.
Yeah, and I think that
honestly he would thrive under Matt Painter. It's just there's been guys that would have been really good at Purdue or vice versa.
Yeah, there was some trash talking between Booker and they have a history. Booker and Braden.
They were on the same AU team, right? Or circuit.
It's more than that. We played Cathedral in a holiday tournament in the Hall of Fame Classic.
Yes.
And it was a chippy game that went down to the wire, and there was just a lot of it was some line stepping. So that was really, I don't know if that factored into what his decision was, but there's history, there's familiarity with a lot of the players in Booker. I'm not surprised that he showed up in spots. He comes out in the game,
hits those 2 threes, and now it forces us to defend a little differently. It's a way we haven't had to really defend.
Yeah.
And so then, of course, that's actually a double-edged sword because it's like now I don't think that's actually Booker's game. But he's capable, right? But it's not really like so it's almost like you're giving somebody false confidence to where because he ended up taking a bad one in the second half. And so like that's when you get people that do stuff outside and they have a little success, if they're like shooters, then like now you could be in trouble. But if they're people that it's like I can't say fluky, but like Malik Hall had a fluky 3-point shot at the end of the shot clock. Like they made Walker made some tough shots. If you want to look at like his efficiency, he had 15 points on 14 shots or 14 points on 15 shots. It's one or the other. So like if you say like you hold Tyson Walker to that, that's D'ing him up.
Yeah.
Because like you're talking about efficiency, like, Hogard couldn't really hit some shots. Akins had a good game. Hall was actually below average for what he normally does. And so they've got dudes. I mean, they've got tons of.
They do. And so I think that my whole point though is I've always known they had those guys, and I think
me too. I mean,
yeah, but I think that I think it's a tough ask. I mean, I'm betting on them to. I'm betting on their talent to get to where they should be. But what I didn't consider was, them, whether it's fluky or not, calls going one way or the other, just staying in the game is overall a positive, and
Sure.
it's encouraging to a team. And if and everybody in the building knows, and especially your coach and the players know that was the best of the best team you're going to see.
Yeah.
And
they played other great teams.
Yeah.
Even
And I think that,
we played Arizona. We played
I think that you don't know what's going on in their head, any team's head, really. You can see indications and trends and tendencies, but at some point, whether you like it or not, you have to give Izzo some credit as far as leading his team and making them mentally tough.
Here we are. It's March.
Yeah.
Does. I mean,
and all they need to, in my estimation, you just need to see it in action. And I think that was one thing I didn't count on. It was going to be a tough, big thing about it. I think it's going to be a tough ask to beat Northwestern and IU at the end of the season, but I think it got easier for them. I think not easier, but it got a lot more attainable. And I think the confidence that they can take losing this game, a closer game than anyone expected, I think it'll pay dividends the last 2 weeks of the two games.
And once again, I wouldn't be necessarily by any means, surprised if they beat Northwestern at Michigan State, which would be probably enough to get them in.
Yeah.
That's something really.
See, I think that's where we differ. I think that
it might also it might tear that on and all of a sudden, be in the Big Ten championship game, in the tournament. That's not that's more likely than several other teams doing it, But my thing is if they don't win the Northwestern game, and I don't think that'll be easy, mind you, because literally Northwestern does all the things they do kind of counteract things that Michigan State does. Because they don't really, they can slow the game and make it a half-court game, so you're not going to kill them really, probably transition. They can hit threes. That sort of travels. I just, if you're just saying talent for talent, sure. But if you look at teams that are, it's they're now going to go on a run where, the best thing about, they're literally going to go from Braden Smith now to Boo Buie at point guard. Those are two top 10 point guards in the country. And, that's how you win ball games, So Boo Buie's
great. You're not going to get that kind of defensive effort from Boo Buie that you just had against Braden Smith. So if you're looking at ups and downs, you're just not.
No. Braden Smith. I will say,
just in a one-game scenario, that was, like I said, that was the best defensive game Braden played. I don't think
that's the best half of defensive basketball Purdue probably played all year.
Yeah, and
they've never, and that's a good thing though, because they had to. Your shots aren't going. And
of all the things on Michigan State's bingo board of shit that's going to beat us, that wasn't it. You knew it was Edey, and how do we keep them off of keep them away from offensive rebounds? How do we get defensive
in the first half, they out-rebounded Purdue, and certainly on the offensive glass, they were dominating.
That was their focus, and
that's because they knew if these people are getting rebounds, Trey Coffin-Rin, the guards, which Purdue just dominates people in rebounding all season long.
Yeah,
you just look at it, that was going to be their. We're going to crash these boards hard. We're going to hit them with some physicality, and that. But I will tell you, in the second half, we were up 15, and they called that Bush League foul on that three-pointer. Heidi didn't even touch him on that three-pointer, and they let him shoot 3 free throws, I looked at Jen and I said, that's going to be the play that causes us not like it. Like I think we were on the precipice of blowing them out. And that play right there was going to be the minimum swoon, and it was a bogus call. And once again, like I said, I'm not trying to throw officials under the bus per se, even though I already have in a degree, but I'm like, that's the kind of BS call that it's like, if they don't get that and Purdue makes that 18, Michigan State now mentally in the tank, because at 15, you shoot those free throws, it's 12. You are still right there. You're not out of the danger zone, but you're not like all the way in the danger zone. Like you're right there. It came down, hit another basket, 3 points. Now it's 9. That happened like in 40 seconds. And if they don't call that, chintzy foul on that 3-pointer where you didn't even touch him on that play, Heide did not even touch him on that play. Purdue gets that rebound. We come down, probably hit a 3 or 2, whatever. You're down 17-18. Now it goes like all the other Michigan State Purdue games basically over the last decade at Mackey, where it's like they just are up against it. Like I don't, but like if you're in that 4 or 5 possession range game, which they were, make those 2 plays, it's like, you're just, and so that right there was a massive, massive play to keep them in the game because they're still, but like you said, I always felt like they were at arm's length. Adam was there, and he felt like there was some palpable like concern energy.
Yeah, the last home game they watched, it was an absolute machine, and I think that you get fans that don't pay attention other than game day, and they're like, "Well, why is this so hard today?" You get that,
I mean, if at the end of the day, it's like I understand people think, "Hey, they have good players and whatever," but like I think some of that is just the trust factor they have with like Purdue to. But you got to understand, you're dealing with a different deal than last year altogether. Like the stuff that Braden Smith is doing right now, he did not do last year, and I don't think he was capable of doing. He might have been capable, but I don't think he was capable in those same moments. Yeah, and some of that was probably freshman legs, just not. I don't know if they're necessarily believing in himself, but like Matt Painter ad nauseum has been like, you have to take these shots. You have to know that this is how you're going to break this team down. If you make that shot, you put them in a spot where you're changing everything they do. Because if you don't, now it becomes a Farley Dickinson situation where it's like, and so if you look at even the evolution of this year's team, we're doing a lot more high ball screen type stuff. And then now you can't do the same stuff you do on Edie. And even if you watch, if we enter the ball into the paint into Edie from the top of the key right now because how people defend us, you can't stop it. You can't stop because you got to either hedge or come down or clamp down on Edie. If you do it from the top of the key, the spacing's in a way where you can't close on them fast enough, or you're going to give somebody wide open 3. So top of the key's open all day. So like Matt Painter is genius at like, we'll take what you give us. You got to you can take away some things, and we'll hit you where you can't take it away. And we have the pieces this year, especially with all of our 3-point shooting, to do that. And the crazy thing that hasn't happened, and I really hope this goes for us in March that way consistently. I mean, March Madness, that is. We're in March now. Praise God. Greatest month ever. But, if Lance Jones actually did not have a great floor game. He actually played very good defense. He did some things. I think there might have been some emotions with him regarding knowing that he could win a Big Ten title. And obviously his father passed away, I believe, in August, right before the season started. And so there was a little piece on him. I think it was on Fox. I didn't actually even get to see it, but I saw like a little part of it where he had an episode on The Journey, Big Ten Network, and they kind of did something similar along those lines, but Fox's version of that and his story. And I think, they interviewed him like, a day before or whatever, and maybe that was weighing on his heart a little bit. And, it might have nothing to do with it as well. I mean, Michigan State's very good, but I just think that, knowing that, I bet he wished his dad could have been there for the Big Ten championship thing, the level of pride, he would have had. And so maybe that had a little heavy heart on him. But if you catch Purdue, because Braden, I feel like now you're getting pretty much very consistent Braden. Even like the other day, we were talking about he was 3 of 14. He was 3 of 14 against Indiana, 3 of 14 the other game. They still win those games. So they're winning games even though Braden's not shooting it well. But now you have a situation like Lawyer steps up, plays really, really good. A lot of people left him for dead. He's very capable. I think he's actually on the comeback. So I think you're now getting a scary, scary, scary version of Purdue where I guarantee you Lance Jones will be better. He's actually a very consistent player. Every now and then he might have a little bit of an off game. This is probably an off. He didn't have a bad 4 game, but like an off shooting, performance type game. But he still winning plays on defense. He's still really on the ball, especially just tremendous defensive player. So I just, you get people still haven't seen a game where him and Lawyer and Smith, or somebody else, a fourth scorer goes off besides Edey. And when that happens, it's it's going to be an avalanche of where you're a damn good basketball team, and we just beat the crap out of you. I mean, and luckily that's not happened yet. So I feel like that's coming in March to where it's going to be wowzers, you're catching. So I think you're pretty much getting. And it was actually a low assist game for Braden Smith. But if you listen to Matt Painter in the post game, he was like, "Well, they did some things to keep the ball out of Smith's hands to take some of that away." Well, it's if you take that away, then this is open, and he's scoring, right? But now you might not get that assist, but from an assist standpoint, it was below average game for him. But the best defensive game he's played, and still a phenomenal offensive game. And it's just one of those things where we're going to kind of take what you give us.
Yeah.
And we have the pieces to do it, and I honestly think that what separates us and there's some other good teams, the very top teams can do this as well, but Purdue defensively can lock in. And when we don't lock in, it's almost like a missed assignment here or there, but it never lasts very long. It's like a kind of a regroup, whether it be after a timeout, be after a run, maybe it's whatever. It's almost like when Purdue revisits what they need to do in the huddle, they get right back to it, and it's a couple play laps. It's not extended very long. When they really get locked in there defensively, and then if they're shooting they're even halfway capable of doing, they're very hard to beat. And people haven't even seen the best game from Purdue, and I think that's coming. I think it's winning time now. So,
Yeah. The other thing I thought was interesting, just looking at the box score after the game, I have it up right now. They really, in a closer, in a tighter game, it really was a 7-man rotation. First had 3 minutes. Morton had 4. No one else played. So that means you Gillis and Heidi coming off the bench, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. No Miles Colvin at any point, 0 minutes. So I don't know. I think that's probably a function of not needing to go too far on the bench and not needing to go for extended minutes with Fletcher Lawyer playing a good game. I think that it's important to keep those bodies ready. in the event Fletcher does struggle in any certain game. So I think that was probably the biggest reason you didn't see a ton of minutes from First, and you didn't see any really minutes from any other perimeter player other than Gillis. I think that it was a very good test. I'm happy it wasn't a blowout because like I said, I think it's the best kind of win. You don't want to blow out because all that really means is you played a team that even if they're talented, you played a team that did
security.
Yeah, well, and you played a team that did not scout or prepare well, and that's not going to be the case. You're
the case moving forward.
Yeah. So I think really for Purdue, in an odd way, it's the best possible outcome. You got to see a player gain some confidence back, hopefully in Lawyer. You shortened your rotation and it worked out. And your main players showed up and they did what they do. You want to start seeing less variance from the top of your roster, and just versatility and people being ready on either end and contribute. In the middle of your roster. I think that if you would have told me Lance Jones, played 27 minutes and scored 1 point, I would have not been encouraged. But like to your point, I think that what did happen is he was able to, struggle shooting and extend his minutes by being impactful, on the defensive side. And a lot of times, you have to, even if he's not picking up an assist, which I don't think he even had one. Maybe he had one. Did he? No, he didn't. He didn't have a single assist, but that's surprising to me because there were several possessions where he forced a closeout, and he got rid of the ball, and the ball was moving. So it's not always directly an assist. Some people call it a hockey assist, but even if it's not a hockey assist, a lot of times it's forcing a closeout and having the defense move and rotate to where 2 to 3 passes into your possession, that made all the difference. And in the film room, it's easy for us to get on Twitter and YouTube and talk about a player didn't show up, but in a film room, just watching the game and rewatching the game, I guarantee you Lance Jones got some pats on the back from the coaching staff.
He
made the correct play. He didn't force shots. He didn't make shots, but he didn't force shots either. And his aggressiveness as far as, putting the ball on the floor and forcing a closeout moved the entire defense several times and put them in compromising positions to where we got easy shots and clean entry passes. Those are big deals. And again, I keep saying it, but not every team is doing that. That's kind of, there's levels to it. And I think that Purdue just continues to be consistent in that. Inconsistent in who shows up. Yeah, you'd like Heidi to have 18 points and highlight real games every game against an incredible defensive team.
Already not a realistic thing anyways. I mean,
yeah,
what you're capable of doing is every bit as important as of what you actually do. Going to Lance Jones. If this is game 5, Lance Jones might not make some of those decisions because he's used to being at Southern Illinois and used to being one of the guys, one of the dudes, that takes over a game or gets this shot up or whatever. And now he understands that, are starting to understand, more so. I mean, it's not always, but he doesn't need to force something if he making the right basketball play is a winning play.
Yeah.
And like you said, the pass out to somebody else for another pass out, for possibly another pass somewhere else, is the winning play, as opposed to driving it into traffic or pulling it up with a guy in your face, or like something that you're not like, play within yourself, play within the offense, let it come to you, and knowing that and doing that still, especially when you're not necessarily wired that way, is a huge deal.
Yeah,
and that's winning basketball, and that's what a lot of teams just don't have people that do, because everybody that's this level, especially guys that can shoot or high volume scorers, they expect it to go in when they shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't care if you're the best player in the world. There are such things as bad shots. There might be bad shots for you. There might be a better shot for you than it is for somebody else. But you sit there and look at like Carson Edwards, where some of those might not be good shots, but they're good for Carson Edwards. Some of them were. They weren't. They might not be good. They might not have been good for a different player. They might not have been good for I can't think of his name, but like somebody else on that team. But they're a good shot for him.
Yeah.
But even still, it's like if you take what the offense gives you, it's just your percentage of making that play just goes through the roof.
Yeah.
And like I said, he had some very good defensive plays. There. I said there was a lot of plays there. There was a play earlier in the game where they threw the ball off Zach Edey in like the groin/stomach area, and the guy's standing out of bounds. He's jumping from out of bounds, threw the ball for him, and they gave Michigan State the ball. And it's like, you just can't have that. These are like, I'm not trying to like, pick nits, as some would say. But it's like, there were a lot of plays like that where, especially that was earlier in the first half, where, and like I said, that terrible, 3-point where they fouled him, and that happens in every game, but you just can't have the egregious stuff that really throws off kilter how some of that goes. And but what I noticed is that happened. Mason Gillis is standing there and just kind of shakes his head, but it's like moving on. That's a horrible call, but you can't dwell on it. And I think early in the year they might have dwelled on it maybe a little bit, maybe not that, but last year I think they would have for sure. I think now you got players that it's Matt Painter's it doesn't even matter. Just don't waste any energy on that crap. Just continue to if you're a shooter, like I told you in the last pod, if you're Fletcher Warrior, the makes are coming, right? The makes are coming. You didn't just roll out of bed and you can't be a shooter. You beat everybody in the state of Indiana in a game of horse. You can shoot the ball, dude. So, and I think him having the trust in those players and believing in his system and people believing in the system and buying in all the way, and the chemistry is this is definitely a special team. And honestly, I was very encouraged by the win, even though they didn't cover, because you're taking Michigan State's best shot, a desperate team, really, a get right type spot, and yet how many teams in the Big Ten, if Michigan State plays that way, do they not win that game? And I think Purdue's the only one they lose the game at if they played that way. And even Malik Hall afterwards was if we played every game like that, we'd have a bit of a different record. And I think that's frustrating for Tom Izzo, because he looks at it as if they played every game like that, he was actually not discouraged by it either. So kind of going on to what we were saying regarding moving on to just the bigger picture, where it's Michigan State this week at Northwestern, are not at Northwestern, but hosting Northwestern. I think Michigan State's going to take a lot from this, and I think it's actually going to be a good game. But at the same time, if they really get it going, and honestly, Northwestern's now coming off a loss. I mean, I actually like Michigan State's chances better now than I did before. But I actually still think that Indiana game is going to be very, very tough. And will they probably get into a tournament? Even like I said, they probably will. But I'm just saying, if they ding around and don't win that one, there's a real chance they don't win at Indiana. And now you're talking about 17-14. Even if you beat that first game of the Big Ten tournament, it's not going to be. It's like just a win. It's not even like going to do anything.
Yeah.
You're going to have to beat somebody. So like they're up against it now. I think this win actually probably gave Michigan State a lot of confidence because I think they're looking like, man, we can play with one of the best teams in the country in one of the hardest environments, and they look at it as like they were right there, you know. Whereas like if they would have been blown out, that might have been like, I mean, that would have been worse. Like, I mean, you know, and you might agree with that too. Like, well, I think you thought they were going to win regardless. Show some pride, maybe you've been, but like, you know, they'll be every bit as much on edge. I don't think Northwestern's a great matchup for them. So they can't just, you know, they're going to have to play hard. But if they play like they did Purdue, they will beat Northwestern.
Yeah, I mean, I think Northwestern. Michigan State poses some problems on the front line to Northwestern too, though. Just as far as they have a little bit of depth there. I don't understand. I don't understand the minute distribution from Michigan State against Purdue on their front line. I was having a hard time with that during the game.
Where at?
Well, his name is escaping me. Give me a second.
Kohler, what's the name?
Sissoko.
Sissoko, yeah, you got
like
Patty Sissoko.
Yeah.
Can't really defend Zach Edey.
Yeah, I get it, but still, I think that if you're looking to throw bodies at him,
you got in foul trouble.
Yeah, I get it, but still, I think that.
I mean, a lot of people got in foul trouble.
Sure,
but he got it early, and Akins kind of did too.
Yeah,
Akins was finding his little spot there. You know, and I mean they've got, like I said, there's never been a question like whether they get, you know, like I thought them being preseason ranked 4th was a lot considering I know they beat Marquette and made it to the Sweet 16. But, you know, so their expectations when everybody's like, well, some people thought they'd even beat Purdue in the Big Ten championship race. I'm like, Purdue is literally returning their whole team. And then, you know, obviously Lance Dillon's way undersold as far as the transfer, but it's like Purdue was ranked number 1 a lot last year, and they returned the whole team with the addition of the motivation of losing the way they did. So you basically got a team like, so to me, it's like Purdue is a no-brainer top 5 team, period. And I thought Michigan State was probably more like a 10 to 15 range team. Certainly in their talent, you could say might be top 5. And they were returning a lot of people too.
Yeah,
they were returning a lot of people from a team that was a bubble team. Whereas Purdue's returning a lot of people from a team that was a number 1 seed. There's a difference, you know. Like you kind of are who you are, you know, and so
sure.
I mean, obviously, you got to factor in upside 1-year growth, clearly. But you're making a big jump from a team that, like, barely made the tournament to, like, 4th in the country. And so I honestly think the biggest problem with Michigan State was a tough schedule early. They always do that. You know, they go in, like, James Madison knocks them off at home, and that kind of shell-shocked them. They're like, you know, like, James Madison's actually a very, very good mid-major. I mean, extremely good. Like, if they get in, they're going to be hell for somebody. I mean, they're very good. I watched them play that game and other games, and they're good. Really good. So, like, you know, unfortunately, Michigan State accidentally scheduled a very, very good team. Like, and I don't think it was accidental. I think they thought they'd be good, but, like, I think it's one of those where, like, they're going to challenge you, but you're going to win the game. Well, you never think you're going to, like, start out 0-1 at Michigan State, you know, playing because you figure you're going to kind of limp in a bit, you know. Even if you play in your 3rd game of the season, you played a couple games to, like, you know, work out some kinks, look at some tape. What did we not do at all, right? And so that kind of got them on a bad footing. Then it's like their schedule was pretty tough, where it's like you're going to go play this team, that team. It's like you go play Arizona. Like, so now you're all of a sudden you start out the season and you're like, you know, you're like 4-5. And, like, you know, if you have a couple more wins and a couple less losses, there all of a sudden like you're about where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And they've lost close games, and so it's just like they had a lot of pressure. They started out poorly, and it's like if the results aren't there, listening to your coach, even if he's a Hall of Famer or not, is sort of like, I don't want to say optional, but you know what I mean? Like if you don't have any true leaders and it's not a player-led team, then you're in a spot too, right? And so, this game against Purdue very well might galvanize Michigan State. Like once again, I do think they will get in the tournament ultimately, and they will be dangerous because where they're seated, if they get in as a 10 and 11, there's nobody you're going to play. Like that is a 7 or a 6 seeds nightmare because like now you're playing a team that is quite frankly better than you on talent. Maybe by a large margin, really. And so, I mean, it would be nothing for us to sit here and be like Michigan State's in the Sweet 16.
I'd love to see them in UConn's bracket.
I would too, but I don't, I don't. And they might have 8 or 9. They might like if it really depends on what they do. There's a lot to be said. Depends on how far they can go. I mean, like I personally, I know we're still on this one, but if we're going into like preview the upcoming game,
we can get to it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Got a story?
No, if you want, go ahead.
I mean, I probably have one, but we'll just save it for some other fodder. I guess real quick, what are your kind of thoughts on this game since we're here?
Illinois,
Illinois Purdue game, yeah. Tuesday
night. I think that a closer game, honestly, I know that you're kind of 50-50 with this game. It may end up being a loss, but to me, I think there's some factors here with Purdue that work in their favor. I think
the closer game helped Purdue.
I believe so. I think it's going to keep them sharp. I think that you're going to get some players that, weren't thrilled about their performance offensively, even though, they did a lot of great things. I'm talking about Lance Jones. I'm talking about Trey Kaufman-Rain. I'm talking about a lot of those players that are going to want to, have a bounce back game. I think that's one thing that is in Purdue's favor, as opposed to if everybody would have ate and they would have won by 25 or 30 at Michigan State. I could definitely see a drop off in the trap game here. Maybe not. You can't really call it a trap game. I mean, a tough game against Illinois to where they wouldn't come out as sharp. I think the other thing that I alluded to a little earlier was getting at least a share of the Big Ten title. That box checked already, that way you're not pressing, you're not trying to do too much to accomplish that goal. You can really just do what you've been doing. So I think those two factors in my mind really lend to Purdue, Purdue winning this game. I think that they're gonna, I find it, I'm not taking enough into account of as far as what Illinois brings to the table, but I don't really see, the leaders on this team, Edie, Smith, wanting to take a step backwards. And I feel like this is the kind of game where it's going to be competitive enough. And I've already said, I think Illinois, they're front runners. So I think if Purdue's in a spot where they can get up 5 to 8 to 10 in the second, early in the second half, I think that, it's quite possible they run away with this game. It's going to be a tough game, but I think it's about as good of a barometer as you're going to see this point of the year for Purdue. So, I mean, win or loss, I'm excited to see what comes of it. I think that at this point in the year, you're hoping to just build on your good habits and stay healthy. So I mean,
I I think I actually, and I meant to bring this when we talk about the Michigan State game. You made phenomenal points all night long, but like I think regarding Purdue checking a Big Ten title off their list relieves that much pressure. Like goal number 2 achieved. First one was
and,
Illinois Valley.
and before you go off,
I don't think even going undefeated in non-conference was the goal. It might have been like some kind of sub goal
yeah,
bonus, right? But like winning Maui. Let's show
yeah,
people we're for real. Get that bullshit probably Dickinson talk like let's show people like it's not paper tigers, like we're here to like beat the best of the best.
yeah,
They took that personal. So if you've noticed when, and I know you have, but like people understand like when the challenge has arisen to Purdue for them to show how good they are, they've done it every single time this year. So with that being said, I love that point where like Purdue checked off like so now they know they've won the Big Ten, and I don't necessarily think it maybe be not necessarily a bad thing. I think the pressure to win at Illinois is gone now.
yeah.
I know that it was like all the way.
You're not gonna do anything out of character to try to get that game with the
Yeah.
end result hopefully being a Big
Now,
Ten.
what I actually think is that, and I've said it for a long time, is like this is Illinois Super Bowl.
Mhm.
It really is. They have been. Coleman Hawkins have been on the Twitter sphere, at, just nonstop about like obsessed with like Purdue, like rent free, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like just on there about like, well, we got this game, and they still got to come to our place, and it's like, now it's like, who gives a shit? They got to come to our place. Well, to what? To if we win and they win their, and I get it, but it's like if you don't worry about what's in front of you, then talking about future crap means nothing. And mind you, I think Illinois is very, very good, and they are very good, and they'll be very tough to beat at home. And they didn't have Terrence Shannon Jr. last game, but just think about this, they have this penciled in their minds, and they're a delusional fan base, but they have it in their minds that with Terrence Shannon Jr. and then now the game's at home that they almost like can't lose to Purdue. Like that's like a real thing. Like that's an easy trip for Purdue. Champaign Urbana is a hour and 15-minute trip. Covington Beef House. Boilermakers have enjoyed many a delicious roll and many a delicious steak after beating Illinois in Champaign. Many times. It's one of their favorite pastimes is to mount up over there and eat good. But so it'll be a very intimidating environment, very hostile environment. Illinois has circled this as their Super Bowl. I actually think the difficult thing in this game will be, I think Illinois will be playing. I think they might actually be pressing a little bit, which favors into Purdue. Not pressing like pressing, they might do that too, but like pressing to like almost like they're so excited for the matchup. It's like, you look at like St. Mary's Gonzaga, right? To put it in a similar thing, it's like St. Mary's has got this home game. They've already actually won at Gonzaga. Now they get this home game. This is their chance to be like, man, we can kind of like really prove we're the best team in this conference. And, poor old Gonzaga comes in unsuspecting and then smashes them out. And, they beat, because like at the end of the day, Gonzaga is Gonzaga and St. Mary's is St. Mary's. And I know that sounds, like, and I like both those programs are great programs, but, now you get like poor old Purdue comes in there, like, man, like we've got this awesome team that's like the best thing, since the D Brown 2005, like, they're like, man, we are so good. And honestly, at the end of the day, Lance Jones, he's an Illinois kid, from Chicago. So like he might take that game personally, especially after losing, like not losing, but playing poorly for him in a game. He's going to be one of those guys that probably has like a 25 burger. You just watch it now. He's gonna have like that big game,
Yep.
And Braden Smith is Braden Smith. I have a weird feeling Edie will probably get in early foul trouble. I think Purdue will. I think the only thing that's going to really actually hurt Purdue in this game is I think they're going to get a very unfavorable whistle. And how does Purdue combat that? I just think that I think that the officials in this game are going to be very affected by the Illinois crowd. Now there's a chance we go in there just punch in the mouth to begin with, where it's like take the crowd out of the game. But I feel like I have a feeling that the officials are going to even up the fouls. Like if they call a ticky-tack one where where Edie really gets fouled, they're going to call some hand check bullshit on the other end on like Braden Smith. The officials are going to find the formula to be like, well, what's the worst possible thing for Purdue? Let's get Lance Jones in foul trouble. Let's get Braden Smith in foul trouble. Let's get Edie in foul trouble. And then how good is Purdue? Well, I just have that weird kind of suspicion that it's going to be that kind of a game. Now, if this game is just like strap them up, let's play, Purdue's going to win the game. And and I think it's even like a decent whistle, like a slightly below average road whistle.
Yeah.
I honestly think that but I will tell you the other thing that I think favors Purdue, if there's a case to be made. If I had to guess that Illinois will be like a 1 or 2 point favorite at home against Purdue. And talk about the 12th ranked team playing the third ranked team now, second, third, no what poll you're looking at, ranked team in the country hosting them. And the crazy thing is there'll be a lot of money pour in on Illinois. I mean, there'll probably be a decent amount of sharp money pouring in on Illinois. And honestly, that at this point, I might change my mind tomorrow. Might change my mind when I see the ref crew. I might wait. You find that about an hour and a half before the game. So it's like, I'll be on Gold and Black, checking that out, who are the officials? If it's Jeffrey Heines Anderson, we're in deep shit. If it's Courtney Green, well, you got a boat, you got a semi-truck. What do you need? You might hammer Illinois, but although we'll be the underdog, we love betting underdogs. But still, I think all things being equal, even if Illinois has been playing very, very well, if you look at when Illinois has really stepped up to the highest level of competition, they have not been as good. They're a very good team.
Yeah.
But if you look at they ended up beating Ford Atlanta team, good team. A lot of that was coming off of last year, very good team. But still not a powerhouse team. They win that game, and whatever.
Yeah.
They played some other good non-conference teams, and they won some of those games. But it's can you really quick pull up their schedule?
Yeah, I can do that. 1 second.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of they played a very good non-conference schedule, but I just want to be accurate on who they played because I feel like Purdue and Tennessee and Arizona and Marquette have all played the same teams in non-conference, and I want to make sure we can recall the actual game.
So they played Marquette.
Yeah. They lost to Marquette or they beat Marquette? Marquette beat Illinois, right? Am I correct on that? Close game.
Yes. Yeah. Well, 71-64, not that close, but
yeah. So Marquette went to Illinois and won the game. So that's a high-level team, and they had all their players in that game. So that was the best version of Marquette. All right.
And so they had Florida Atlantic and Tennessee back-to-back, so they split those games.
They lost to Tennessee and got throttled, which is understandable. A lot of teams can do that, but then they
lost by 8 against Tennessee at Tennessee. That actually it's not terrible.
Yeah.
Then conference play.
And they had Darren Shannon Jr. in that game too.
Yes, they did. Yeah. He had.
By the way.
Yeah.
Also in the Marquette game as well.
Correct. Yeah, he had 21 against Marquette.
And then the Fort Atlanta game was what was the score on that one? Pretty close?
10 points, so 98-89.
Yeah, but that game went back and forth. I think they won the game more closer to the end. Maybe not. I don't know. I thought they did. Whatever. So there's 3 very good teams. You're 1-2 now. What are some of the other non-conference games that they play?
I mean, really, Colgate, Missouri.
Missouri's terrible.
Yeah, so they're
Colgate's actually a really good team. If they get in, they might knock somebody off in the first round.
Yeah, they did play Oakland. I do like Oakland a bit in their conference.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so but in the Big Ten play, they played Michigan State twice and split with them?
Hold on here.
They split with Northwestern. They slaughtered Northwestern the first time, and then they
they did. They got Northwestern by 30 the first game,
and that was like the best I've seen Illinois play all year.
Yeah.
Because that version of Illinois will not be in trouble.
Yeah. We got them by 5. Purdue got them by 5.
Yeah, but that game was about an 18-20. They had to come a big comeback to make that.
Yeah.
We were winning. I was never really worried in that game either, and they made it interesting in the end. But it's like Purdue defensively dominated that game in the first half. Like, they had spent a lot of energy coming back in that game, which is not, I really looked at that 5 points, which I understand that's the final margin, but we were winning that game by like 18 points.
Yeah,
they're like on the threshold of putting him to bed big time. Didn't do it, but like my point is like that game was at arm's reach most of the time. We held them at bay until the very end. They didn't have Terrence Shannon Jr. They do have him this game. They had but so my point is like they go in and they win. They go to Rutgers at the time and get beat, and they didn't have all the people. They've been playing better recently, but like it's like they went to Wisconsin and won, but there's something wrong with Wisconsin. So it's like that was a nice win, a very nice win.
Yeah, 8-point win at Wisconsin.
Yeah, but and they have they lost to Nebraska, beat them at home, right? Or they almost lost to Nebraska at home. They didn't lose it. They were very close. They almost did. They barely won.
Yeah, they won in overtime by 3. Yeah.
Like Maryland went to Illinois and won.
Yep.
That was a bad loss for them. But like they didn't play at I think they lost at Minnesota. Or no, they didn't play at Minnesota.
No, they played Minnesota. They beat Minnesota by 8.
At Minnesota?
It
was at home.
No, it was at home.
Yeah, I don't think they played at Nebraska or at
no.
Minnesota. And those are 2 games they probably lose.
No.
One of them, right? Probably split them. Nebraska didn't lose a home game, except for to I think Creighton or somebody. Maybe even somebody worse than that.
Now, their losses are Tennessee, Purdue, Maryland, Northwestern, Michigan State, Penn State.
Yeah, Penn State one was a bad one.
Yeah, it was a 1-point game.
Yeah, but it wasn't even played at Penn State. It played at a little rec hall area. Whatever. So my point is most of those are road mess ups, although they did lose to Marquette at home.
Yeah.
But going with just so I guess my point is when they've stepped it up to the upper level of competition, they have basically not they've been able to beat the teams that they can scheme and athletic and outshoot, or they've been able to beat those teams. And it's not saying they're not a good team, and it's not even saying that they won't beat Purdue. And maybe tomorrow I might change my stance on it, but Purdue's a different animal than even anybody they've played so far. Like at Tennessee, at Purdue, so they're battle tested, right? That you got to see a lot from them. And now they have Terrence Shannon Jr., which they didn't have the first time they played Purdue. And he's a very tough cover. That's going to open some things. The Mask is a hell of a player.
Yeah.
But, I can see some of their players kind of forcing things, and they made some adjustments in the end of that game that I think they'll make to begin the game against Purdue. So how quickly Matt Painter's on that, I think certainly, and I think he will be. because there's just different things you have to do at that point. But I literally think that I don't know. Like I certainly wouldn't count Purdue out because Purdue also looks at it as like a stamp, like it's a quad one win. Like, I mean, you can actually make the case that would be your best win of the season if you win in Illinois. I mean, I'd say you'd have to say Tennessee or Arizona.
Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, like
probably.
Tennessee's coming up now too, man. They're like really,
yeah.
I mean, I think Arizona from like a matchup standpoint was their
well,
best.
I mean, there were I mean, there were stretches in that game where they just looked.
Well, I mean, Purdue
looked.
Honestly, that was Purdue in the first half was like the best.
Yeah.
No one was going to beat Purdue that day in the first half.
But I will say this, like being objective, and I think that you were just kind of waiting on Arizona to make this run. You know, the entire game, even when Purdue was up big, you're like, and you just regard them as that kind of team. And I don't think that that's changed to this day as far as who Arizona is. So I think that Purdue was being able to hold them off and win in the manner they did. I think that to me, that's the most impressive win of the season.
No, it wasn't.
I think that what they did to Rutgers, as far as how Rutgers came ready to play on a random Thursday night, and how they looked just like a well-oiled machine against a very good defensive team, that was impressive. But as far as quality of opponent, Tennessee, Tennessee, Arizona, Alabama, even. I think at that point that was.
But none of those games were on the road. They were neutral.
Yeah, they were neutral sites, but
I mean, Alabama. There's a lot of Purdue.
You still have to travel. I mean,
yeah. I mean, this game is like. It's not like Purdue's uncomfortable playing in Champaign, but
there's a lot less logistics.
There's a lot of vitriol for that fan base. Like they are some clowns. I mean, that fan base is like they are freaking delusional, dude. They're gonna be like psycho and do dumb I'm not gonna see them throwing hot dogs at our players. Like I mean, really, for real. And so like I feel that as far as if you go and you win at Illinois, I think it almost puts Purdue in a spot where they're the number one overall seed, period.
Yeah.
And Purdue probably looks at it that way too. So they have a lot to play for as far as that, because you know what's going to happen if they lose that game. It won't be looked at as a bad loss by any means.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is UConn and Purdue, who are like right there behind them, or UConn and Houston, will sneak up and like Purdue might not have that number one overall spot, until they go and like maybe retake it back. Like the thing about it is like if they had lost that and then they come home and they beat Wisconsin, 3 weeks ago that would have been enough to like, okay, you're back on the number one line overall, right? But like now beating Wisconsin at home is like you're going to get zero credit for it.
Yeah,
like, not zero, but like it's going to be a quad one win, and but if Purdue goes and beats at championship level teams, like if Purdue truly is a championship level team, which I think they are, so they could lose the game, sure, right? But a team that is a definite championship level team will go and beat Illinois tomorrow.
Yeah,
and we both think that's the case as far as their pedigree. But I just won't be surprised if they lose the game.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think that I would be not concerned. I don't know. I think it would be a
Illinois.
Very big picture concern if you drop the game to Illinois, just because I don't know. Not a concern, just more of a disappointment.
There is a big picture or there isn't?
Huh?
You think there is a big picture or there isn't?
Well, I think in the big picture, if Purdue drops this, like to me, everything that makes them special, I start to question a couple things, so that for that reason, I don't think they do drop it. I think that I would like to see them not take a step backwards as far as coming off of a competitive game at home. I just can't imagine that they go on the road against a very good opponent and not be ready to play. And if you have a locked in, ready to play Purdue team, to me, there's no reason you don't win.
And I would have to say to you that, and I agree with that, like in the sense of like if UConn's UConn's also doing that, but like let's say Houston, if Houston is going and doing that, they probably find a way to win the game.
Yeah.
And so I think you and I both think a lot of Houston.
Yeah.
And so like, and to me, it's like, I'm going to be hard pressed not to have Houston in the Final Four. I don't know. We don't know the brackets.
Yeah.
But like, I just,
defense travels.
Look at the top 5 point guards.
Yeah.
I mean, the only player, in my opinion, that I'd be like, I think I would not rather have anybody than Braden Smith. But my point is like, if I were just going to build a team and pick a point guard, Shed from Houston would be right at the top of my list. Braden Smith as well. They're different kind of players, so me being a big Purdue fan and me being a huge Braden Smith fan, there's things I really like that he does that Shed might not do, but he's got a little more side, so there's just, but kind of like picking hairs there, like you're splitting hairs there. But, as far as that goes, I mean, it's the kind of game where I feel like if Purdue wins it, all they're doing is just proving to themselves and the country that they are definitely indeed a national championship favorite.
Yeah.
And I do think that teams, but if they don't win it, like I said, there'll be probably a handful of reasons they don't. I think this team is different, so it's very possible they do.
I mean, just looking at the matchups,
if Purdue plays their game, they are probably actually good enough to overcome the things I mentioned and still win the game.
Yeah.
And so, I guess my thing is like, if Purdue goes to Illinois, all things being equal, and we go there and play, we win 7 or 8 out of 10 of the games. The question is, if the other things come into enough of a factor, will it be enough to be one of those times? Like Purdue plays Illinois 10 times neutral, Purdue beats them 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
And so it's not, and it's not down in Illinois. Illinois might beat a lot of teams 7 or 8 times if they played them 10 times. It just wouldn't be Purdue. And I just, so I actually agree with you certainly that like the fact that the Purdue game was more of a, not really, it was a grinder, but it's like, it was good that you stepped up in competition from a talent standpoint. You just got through playing Michigan State. Mm-hmm. So you know what level you have to play on to win a Big Ten game of this caliber, because you just played a team that has that caliber of player. And that's big.
Yeah. Yeah. They are. Yeah. I think that it's a good thing that it was probably, you need the win. You need to check that box before this game. I mean, I don't know. You're Saturday to Tuesday. It's not a crazy travel distance. I just think it's set up to where it's not a huge ask to win that game. For that reason, I think that we are, in a prime position to pick up a win. I don't think there's any extenuating circumstances. I always go back to a couple seasons ago, a random Tuesday night in Michigan, just terrible travel conditions and short turnaround. It's not that. And I think that, the one other point with the checking off the box of the Big Ten championship, I think that also that kind of puts a taste in your mouth where I want more, and I just don't see it as a spot where they take a step back. And honestly, if they do, I'll be surprised and a bit disappointed. If it's a game where it's just key players are in foul trouble and we couldn't guard with our reserve players, and they got caught in a bad matchup. We couldn't, Shannon gives them 35, and there was foul trouble from ED. Like I guess I could swallow that, but like in a all things equal, status quo game, Illinois' best game, our best game. I just don't see us dropping that game.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I'm encouraged. I don't think it's going to be a spot where there's going to be a ton of variance. I think it's just going to be one of those games where they continue to build on their habits. So,
yeah, I think there's going to be kind of a game of runs, like in both ways. Like I can see, like, just because they're such an elite offensive team.
Yeah.
I do think Purdue has the ability to get stops. I think that they will do quite a bit of. They'll try and do some booty ball with the mask. That's, and then last game, like, it might have been like Gary A, but it was like that's the other. There's a guy that played. I can't think of his name right now. I should totally know it, but it's who's their guard? They're one of their like guards. Bigger guy.
I don't know offhand.
Yeah, whatever. He was pretty much a non-factor in the first game entirely because they just switched Edie out onto him, and then it was kind of like he's so much big, like to where like like if he was going to like back down somebody smaller like a Smith or somebody like that, it's like he might have an advantage, but Matt Painter flipped it on him and made it pretty tough. And so I think that, as far as that goes, I don't know, like they've got some really good players. I know that Hawkins will be way up for this. It's senior night. Like they've literally been, the only thing about it is like they've really been circling this game as if it is everything. And I mean, for Purdue, it's a chance to go and like step on their throat and be like, like whether you win the game, it's sort of like, we're going to shut you up. We're going to shut your fan base up. Like we're going to, like, we won the Big Ten outright on your floor. Like, now we're going to win the Big Ten by at least 2 games, maybe, well, really 3 games if they win at that point. It's 3 games, guaranteed. Maybe 4 if they, So we're going to win it out by 3 games again. So lots, certainly lots to be like motivated about, for Purdue. And they have a lot of the consistency. And, like we've got dudes like, I mean, I think we're actually a better cohesive team than them. But like I said, with this being like really more of this comes from like a betting standpoint for me, because it's like I see these spots and 9 times out of 10 the home team wins the game. It's just like a few weeks back when it was like Connecticut's on the road. Now part of that they were coming off like smashing Marquette, so that they had that now Creighton's got them circled right for this similar to like Illinois has, but like we didn't smash Michigan State, and I think that is a blessing in disguise as far as this goes. Like I would have actually been more nervous about it if we beat Michigan State by 20 or 25, because now you have that false sense of like I'm the man type stuff, where like Matt Painter in a win, it's like you said, the best kind of win. You can go back, look at the film, like we could have done this better. We could have and Illinois is a very good rebounding team, very good. And so there's, and they're good at turning you over. So they're good at some things that Purdue, obviously it's certainly a strength for Purdue, but I think the first game Purdue like out rebounded Illinois. And it's one of the first times they've been out rebounded, and so like how much physicality will Trey Kaufman-Renn be able to get away with, and in the first game, like he played great, so he didn't have that great of a game this past one, as far like he did a good job rebounding, but like as far as like statistically he didn't have a great game, but like he does things, he does winning basketball stuff that might not make it on a stat sheet, but it's always nicer when you see like, some of that. And as far as like, honestly, Brad Underwood, very good coach. But I don't think Matt Painter has too many people that you can say like can X's and O's hang with him. Like where he's like literally playing like a different form of chess than you are.
Yeah.
Like he's like dropping the Queen's Gambit, and you're and you or he's Bobby Fischer, and you're kind of like it's like I'm like level 10. I don't know what the hell that is. I don't understand chess that much other than watching that Netflix special. But I'm just saying, he really, you know, and Brad Underwood is a very good coach. And like I said, they have a lot of things going for them, but it's going to tell me a lot about like Purdue's like pedigree. Certainly like if they like lose a close game on something, or maybe there's some questionable stuff or whatever, like somehow they get like worked, and ends up more like the Nebraska type score where it's just like it just got away. Mentally they weren't there, but once again, that was way earlier in the season. Nebraska just like couldn't be stopped, and they've got some nice pieces too, and like very hard to beat at home. And as far as like Illinois was, I feel like Illinois is always good for like 4 to 6 like very puzzling shots. Like Damas doesn't really take those.
Yeah.
They've got other dudes like Coleman Hawkins that take some bad shots. There's other guys that'll take it. Like Terrence Shannon, he'll drive the basketball, but he might take a bad shot. But if you let him get his head up, you let Hawkins get out there because he's going to do kind of like Booker Deal, go out there and like shoot a 3. Their game plan is going to be try and spread Purdue out. I mean, I'm just telling you that right now. And then hopefully get Edie into foul trouble. So it's like it really depends on like how the game's officiated, and just what their strategy is to slow Purdue down, and but if we're able to play within ourselves and keep our heads, especially if there's like a big run early on Illinois, once again I think they're better as like a front runner. So like if we get to the spot where we're kind of pacing the game, I think Illinois is the kind of team we extend the lead on because they'll do some things out of character.
I agree.
So the biggest thing is like, how does it go early? We'll probably know right away. But once again, I won't be like. I literally have. When I was going through like, okay, you think this can win that? And of course, I did think we'd beat Ohio State until they fired the coach, which they would have. But I literally thought like, okay, Purdue probably going to go 17-3 since several weeks ago, and one of their losses at Illinois. Now we lost to Ohio State one. Will this team make up for it? And like we'd said, I thought that getting that Big Ten share of a title with a few games to play kind of took some, I don't want to say pressure, but like in a way, and that's why they probably had that celebration, because like next one is going to be for senior day.
Yeah.
So they want to focus on that. And I'm sure Purdue very methodically thought like, let's get this one. So you look at it, let's close the book on it, right? And now it's like it's on Illinois. Whereas that would have been a lingering, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like there was some finality there. Like they'd not won it outright, but there was like, we won the Big Ten title, like close the door on that. Now we're on to like our next goal, which is winning it outright, being Illinois, keep on winning your games, win the Big Ten tournament, March Madness, like check mark. So like I look at it as like you did, and you made brilliant points. Where it's like Purdue was like, this is the next thing on the checklist. Done. So I think it's actually that alone was a brilliant thing for Purdue to do in order to put their focus back on Illinois.
Yeah.
So I would actually, so from that standpoint, I'm going to not really be surprised either way. I actually don't think there would be any other team in the Big Ten, if we were to go on the road to them and play tomorrow night, that would beat Purdue the way they're playing right now. But like I said, with all the factors I had mentioned, it's a possibility.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't happen. If they go and win the game, especially if they win it by like 5-10 points, somewhere it's like, it's almost like Purdue's perception is actually going to raise up to where it's like, oh, damn, because, I just think that I think at that point you get Purdue on the 1 seed, like I said, overall, and that's basically not even in doubt because UConn can't get a win like that at this point.
Nope.
And Tennessee, I don't think maybe can either. Houston, they're going to play some teams like that, but like they're not going to be able, enough to make up for the 4 or 5 other games that Purdue. There's no way you can catch Purdue at that point.
Correct.
There's just no way. So definitely a lot on the line for both teams. Should be, potentially the game of the year in the Big Ten as far as like just the two best teams in the Big Ten playing each other. So, plus it's at their home, obviously. So there's, that kind of evens the odds. But, I guess we should
be an exciting game for sure.
Well, I think on our next pod, I think we need to go over, a couple of the upcoming, tournaments, conference tournaments. We'll be locked and loaded to give you some predictions on those, maybe some good odds plays. Probably throw out some point spread action on that night too. Put that on Twitter probably beforehand, but or maybe like
yeah.
Game goes on. But obviously, last week of college basketball, baby.
Yeah.
You already hear the CBS. It's right there, man. But I'm looking forward to hang out with you. You and I are gonna be together, hanging out in person. In the great hoop state of Indiana, watching the games. Maybe throw a little quiche down. Something like that. Little action. Little damn Nepalese coins floating around, possibly. Throw them. Hopefully, some tendies on a low carb, no food diet.
Yeah. Yep. I could use some tendies.
Some tendies. They're coming.
No ramen, no ramen, no ramen.
Stop.
Okay.
Anyways. Well, much love, bro.
Yeah, much love. I'm gonna hop off here. Get ready for a big game tomorrow, and we will see everybody here shortly.
Yeah, we're recapping on Thursday.
There we go.
All the things, man. All right.
All right, man. Take care.
Peace out, brother. All right, take care.